Welcome to this conversation organized by the UNESCO Brussels office. Today we will discuss the UNESCO and the European Union strategies to protect cultural heritage in danger. UNESCO has just published a short brochure that identifies concrete action to respond to attacks on cultural heritage in order to prevent, mitigate and recover. Culture is increasingly at the front line of conflicts. Over the past year, attacks against culture have become more systematic and large-scale. Beyond the physical destruction of heritage, this has a tremendous human impact, with protection and human rights implications. What we are witnessing highlights the close interlink between the protection of diversity and heritage on the one hand, and the security and stabilization imperatives on the other. We are today with Madame Silvia Costa, member of the European Parliament and co-rapporteur of the report Toward an EU Strategy for International Cultural Relationship. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here with this fantastic person so committed in UNESCO, also on the field in Beirut, on the cause of the protection of cultural heritage in this situation very tragic. The European Parliament has always been committed in the relation with the UNESCO and on protection of cultural heritage. I remember that 2 years ago, the first parliament in Europe, our European Parliament approved a resolution, a very important resolution, the destruction of cultural sites perpetrated by Daesh. In the text, the Parliament strongly condemned the intentional destruction of cultural, archaeological, religious sites perpetrated by ISIS and Daesh, in particular in Syria and Iraq, but also in other countries as Yemen and others. The resolution asked to Commission to take appropriate action in at political level in accordance with the UN Security Council resolution of 2015 in order to put an end also the illegal trade in cultural property from the terrorists of Syria and Iraq during the periods of conflict in those territories. And we ask also to use cultural diplomacy, intercultural dialogue as a tool, also cooperation on the field of culture and restoring objects and also monuments as a tool when it comes to reconciling the different communities and the rebuilding the sites destroyed. And also to implement security measures at the EU's external borders to prevent cultural goods from Syria, Iraq and other countries in conflict from being smuggled into the Union. That's why we are asking to the Commission to present the directive focus on importation of these goods by the conflict areas, and we are waiting for 2018 as promised to have this new, law, the new normative.
Thanks very much. So the Parliament is very committed in protecting cultural heritage. From UNESCO, we have two representatives here, so you can tell now your commitment in this regard. We have Mr. Lazare Elundu Assomo, UNESCO Deputy Director of the World Heritage Center. Welcome, Mr. Assomo.
Thank you.
And Madame Cristina Menegazzi, the UNESCO Project Officer in charge of the project Emergency Safeguarding of the Syrian Cultural Heritage. Mr. Assomo, from the UNESCO side, last March the UN Security Council approved the resolution 2347 for the protection of heritage. Why this resolution can be considered a turning point in this respect?
No, I think in March we really had something historic. I think it is in line with what Madame Silvia Costa just said. You know, there has been a number of initiatives and resolutions, but it was the first time in the history that the UN Security Council was really, adopting a resolution, focusing on the protection of cultural heritage in armed conflict. It's true that in 2015, it first adopted one resolution, but that resolution was only focusing on the financing terrorism using illicit trafficking. That was resolution 2199. But it was focusing on Iraq and Syria. But for the first time, under the initiative of Italy and France and under the presidency of the United Kingdom, this first resolution was adopted. And what is important about this resolution is that the resolution states clearly that any deliberate destruction of heritage can be considered as a war crime. This is something very important. And the second thing which is also important for that is that there is a recognition that today the protection of cultural heritage should be at the heart of all security measures, and it's so important also for peace and international peace, and that's the most important thing. But one last thing I like to say about this resolution is that it takes stock of many other actions that, like I said, and also for the first time, it calls also for including cultural heritage protection in peacekeeping missions.
Yeah.
Already UNESCO has been doing it in Mali with the peacekeeping mission to protect Timbuktu. And I myself, I was there. I was the UNESCO representative in Timbuktu. And so we are now seeing that this is absolutely important. And we are going now to report on to the Security Council together with our partner, together with the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, and also with the UN Sanction Monitoring Team. So we are going to report on this resolution before the end of the year.
Yeah, talking about peacekeeping and a war area, Madame Menegazzi, could you share with us some aspects of the project you are in charge of in Syria?
Yeah. I think one of the main challenges of this project is that we have. I'm now working with this project since 3.5 years, based in Beirut office, so very close to the situation, and having missions regularly also to Damascus, Palmyra, Aleppo, Homs, and other cities. So I'm very regularly in contact with the Syrians that lives in Syria, but also with the others that are part of a diaspora, so that are living now in Europe or in other countries or in Lebanon. And what I've learned is that with culture we can avoid politics most of the time, because when a colleague, an architect or archaeologist just come to us as UNESCO and ask for support, for technical support or for suggestions, you don't look at them as belonging to a party or to a special group, but just as human beings. And as human beings, they deserve to have access to culture, which is one of the human rights. And that's why we work and we do this. So we have identified a lot of needs and trying with the support of, especially with the European Union, to tackle those needs. We have done a lot of capacity building of professionals in the field, some action of consolidations of monuments that were tackled, but also awareness raising. We have produced some videos in order to make people aware about the fragility of heritage in Syria and also the importance to conserve it. And then, of course, many other actions that I cannot list now, but it is really a very challenging project and experience to be there. Yeah.
Mr. Stopo, could you give us some other example of how UNESCO protect the cultural heritage in this area? What important the agency does for?
I think the example given by Christina, my colleague Christina, it's very important. I mean, we have to be underground. And it's not only alone, but we have to be underground with all our partners, all those who are committed to support the cultural heritage. We are doing it in Syria, we are doing it in Iraq, As you remember, every time some of the sites were liberated in Iraq, UNESCO has immediately conducted a mission to assess the situation and understand the state of the degradation and what has happened. We did it for Hatra, we did it for Ashur, and of course, one of our major action that we have been able to do was in Timbuktu in Mali, where immediately after the destruction, it was important not only to work with the government, but also to work directly with the communities, because the destruction of cultural heritage, we understood it as a way of, denying people's identity, denying people's dignity, trying to make people, be completely weakened so that, the ideas of violent extremism and radicalization can get in. So we have been able to work with the peacekeeping missions, with the support of the European Union, the government of Switzerland, and the others, to be able to rebuild the monument, to conduct conservation and reconstruction activities, but also, what is much more important, to favor environment for peace reconciliation, but also through these activities, to start creating jobs. I think this is very important. And now, to be able to structure our approach, UNESCO has adopted a strategy which you mentioned at the beginning, the UNESCO strategy to reinforce our action, to protect cultural heritage. And this strategy is a strategy that helps us now conduct a more structured approach, which has led also to what I mentioned. Last thing, which is also very important, is that we understood that it was also important to launch a campaign through social media, which is also important, which is the Unite for Heritage. Unite for Heritage, which was launched by the Director General in Baghdad in 2015, particularly so that youth can be sensitized on the role that cultural heritage plays, and so that they can also contribute to the fight against the destruction of cultural heritage. So this campaign, it's absolutely important on social media, because it's a way, social media are also a way for us to create a community of all people who are engaged to safeguard the cultural heritage in the world. Yes.
Madam Costa, you already said that the European Union is committed on
this matter. Yeah.
This matter. According to your experience and your role of co-rapporteur in the Parliament, what are for you the key organizational and policy measures that the European Union should implement to advance international cultural relations with partner countries?
Yeah. First of all, I totally agree that this Security Council resolution 2347 is a fantastic and very important resolution, also because we ask for this kind of pronunciation in our resolution, even if we ask more, not only war crime, but crime against humanity. Because sometimes war crimes means that it's an accident, it's not intentional, but the problem is intentional. The worst is intentional. And then imagine that we have to do something with International Penal Court, because at this moment only formally, we address to Penal Court. First of all, I hope, my dream is that the EU, as EU, will proceed to Penal Court. Second, is so important that we support in a more structured way. I remember that there is just finished in this year a project between EU and UNESCO for Syria in particular, and I hope that this triennial project can continue, because we need to have this fantastic fantastic organization on the ground, together with ICROM, ICOMOS, ICOM, so many instruments we have. Third, we ask for strengthen our relationships as EU, intercultural and interreligious the relations with these countries also after conflict, because it's a way to recuperate the mutual trust and to have a spirit of the future. And I remember also an initiative that I personally take in the Parliament, named Educa. Educa is a campaign that we launched for refugees inside the camp of refugees. I remember that the 3 million, about 4 million are in Lebanon. It's incredible. And we risk to have a lost generation. And that's created the basis for radicalization, desperation, so on. And so we double the percentage of the humanitarian aid devoted to education in this year, last year. That's one sign, and together with the European educational corridors that we launch in official way, asking to any university around Europe, but also to support the students' needs, because there is so many students, Syrian students in particular, that are without any, because I know that UNESCO is very linked to this approach that education and culture.
Absolutely.
And education too, also the knowledge, for the knowledge of the cultural heritage. Absolutely. As a identity fact. And then also we need to have more also integrated resource dedicated to some strategic projects, also very focus on to share with UNESCO, for instance, inside in the DG NEAR or DG External Actions and Culture, etc. That now, thanks to this new strategy on cultural international relations, are working together. That's very important, to define an agenda. What is the first needs, concrete needs that we have in this situation? What can we do with some donors or some countries? I know that Italy is very committed, not only for Blue Helmets that we launched together with Irina Bokova, UNESCO, in 2016, but at this moment is the only country that is cooperating to Unite for Heritage project. And I hope, I ask to Commissioner Navracic to ask to every country in Europe to put this impetus on this, and also to have this task force on the ground ready to go when there is this risk for the cultural heritage. Just for last words are, for me, important is for the next year. The next year, thanks to the Parliament, is declared the European Year of Cultural Heritage.
Absolutely.
Not only for the cultural heritage inside Europe, it's a European year, but it's for also other countries. And I hope that this focus on cultural heritage will be spread on and will be more central in any policy that we are doing now.
Okay.
Thanks very much. And to conclude, you have already, Mr. Soto, spoke about this campaign, Unite for Heritage.
Yes.
Just to let people better understand how they can concretely contribute to safeguard the cultural heritage around the world.
Well, I think it's very easy. Yeah? I mean, if it's just a hashtag Unite for Heritage. I think everyone has a computer, everyone has a smartphone, just hashtag Unite for Heritage, and then you immediately go to the UNESCO website and you have all the explanation on how to contribute. You can contribute as an individual, you can contribute as an institution, and everything, how to donate. Informations are immediately available on the UNESCO website.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much for being with us. Unfortunately, we finish our time. Thanks very much, and Unite for Heritage.
Unite for Heritage.
Unite for Heritage.
Oh.
Thank you very much.